Hey guys, this is Team APS with a Dark Magician deck profile.
This is the same Dark Magician deck that we used in the theme duel. We've done a profile of it once, but obviously it's gotten a lot of new support. Inheritance, Eternal Soul.
Yeah, and you know, this is all around like change in the strategy of the deck.
It works a lot differently now. So Alec and I are both going to give the profile. I figured it'd be fun because we've worked on this deck a lot leading up to the theme duel. So
that was cool.
We have a pretty good idea about its combos and stuff. So if you're kind of getting into the Dark Magician strategy, we'll try to explain stuff really well and all that. Yeah, let's hop in. If you haven't checked out the theme duel, of course, there'll be a link to it in the video and in the description.
You gotta see it. You might find something interesting. So first up is Triple Dark Magician. He is your heart and your soul. He is your energy.
You really need him. You need him to see. The thing about him compared to, say, Blue Eyes, in like a Blue Eyes deck, you can maybe get away with running 2 Blue Eyes, but I think that this deck needs to run 3 of this. You always want one in your hand. You always want one in the grave. You tend to want one on the field. Like,
you want it everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of useful. It doesn't brick too badly because in this deck, now that there's Eternal Soul and Navigation,
you can get them out your hand.
It tends not to brick really all too badly.
Triple Magician of Dark Illusion.
Yeah.
He's our little retrained copy.
So what he does is when you use a spell or trap card effect during your opponent's turn, you can special summon it from your hand, which is really useful. And also, whenever a spell or trap resolves, you can special summon a normal spellcaster from your graveyard, which is namely going to be Dark Magician. And there's some cool interactions you can do with this.
He allows you to keep field presence in some of your little plussy combos.
Yeah, there's a cool combo with Rod that we'll actually we can explain it right after we talk about Rod. But I would say that one thing about him, you could cut him to 2 if you wanted. He's not entirely necessary, but he'll help if you're running Allure or if you choose to run like Sacred Sword as 7 stars. Yeah. We're not running it in this build.
But if you need somebody to get rid of him, to banish him, you're not gonna get hurt by banishing a copy or 2 of him.
Right, yeah.
Triple Rod, he is our Stratos.
Too good.
He's really the normal summon of the deck.
He's the only thing he'll be really normal summoning, and the more spells and traps this deck has gotten, the better this has gotten.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is pretty much how it's gone. He also has a useful effect in the graveyard that can sort of combo with this.
Pops a spellcaster and you can add himself to your hand.
Yeah, so if it's in your grave and a spell or trap card gets activated during your opponent's turn, you contribute a spellcaster you control to add Magician's Rod to your hand. So if you have these guys and they're all in the field, right? So like
not 3 rods.
Yeah, this is in the So let's assume that Rod is in the graveyard and you use, say, Magician's Navigation or something similar. And you get like these 2. A spell will be resolving and all that. So because like Navigation, right? So you can use Rod's effect and tribute Dark Magician to add Rod to your hand, and then Dark Illusion's effect will also activate because you resolved a spell, and like you can get Dark Magician back. So it's a +1. This comes back to your hand. Next turn you summon it, get more advantage.
Search.
It's just a really cool combo, and honestly, anytime you can pull that combo off, you're probably in a pretty good spot.
Yeah,
like
it feels
with Eternal
so
Soul
good.
and stuff.
And your opponent always looks confused by the end of it.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. You can see it in the video though.
And the first departure from the old strategies, I run double Curry Bandit.
So what was the idea behind this? Because this was kind of more of your creation, which I like.
Well, it was I changed up the basic strategy of the deck. The deck is really.
You're more trying to get it all in the grave, right?
Yeah, I'm really trying to spit things to the grave. My normal summons are not that important because Rod.
The Navigation's in the grave.
Yeah, if I don't see Rod, then it's
then this is the next best normal summon.
Yeah, because
opening up.
You know, a lot of your plays happen on your opponent's turn anyway.
Yeah.
So losing that field presence for Curry Bandit is not that bad.
So the goal here with it is that you're tributing it off in your end phase and sending a bunch of cards to the grave. You search whatever card that you want. So that might be Eternal Soul, that might be Circle. And the idea is you're sending Dark Magicians to the graveyard and also Navigations.
Ooh,
Navigations to the grave, which has a useful graveyard effect. So this is good. I guess the only bad thing is seeing this anytime past around turn 1 isn't great.
That great. And you'll notice in the theme duel, I didn't even get a chance to use him. But he doesn't hurt you if you don't get to use him.
Yeah, that's the good part. And it's like an Allure target. You can always just banish it.
Yep.
So that's cool.
He's new.
Yeah.
Actually,
you didn't use him in the theme duel.
I didn't use him in the theme duel. He was in the place of Mathematician.
The theme duel was a Mathematician. They know all about that.
Yeah, you guys know about that mathematician.
But anyway,
let me take the time and apologize for that misplay with mathematician. But Kaiku, I feel, is just an all-around strong monster in this deck. Being a dark spellcaster, when he does damage, he can banish 2 monsters.
Yeah, two cards.
2 monsters.
And your opponent can't banish their own cards, which is useful. Like if you're facing, say, Blue Eyes, that would help against.
And everything has grave effects nowadays.
The return of the gospel thing. And a lot of stuff vanishes. I mean, if you're even facing Cosmos and you swung over their stuff, they wouldn't be able to float.
It's so great. So I put him in at 1.
And he's still a spellcaster. He's still dark, so he works with illusion magic.
He has even more synergy than mathematician had.
Those kinds of cards.
And there's a single Max C. It's just a really solid card,
It's a good filler.
You get your draws, your opponent. So 1 Max C.
Yeah.
Okay,
right,
we're in our spells now.
Spells are important. Yes.
Triple Dark Magical Circle.
So recap on how this works. When you activate it, you you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You don't show them to your opponent, and any spell or trap card that mentions Dark Magician or a Dark Magician itself, you can add to your hand, and you can put the other cards on top of your deck in any order. Also, whenever you normal or special summon a Dark Magician to your side of the field, you can banish a card your opponent controls. So this card at first wasn't great, but now that Eternal Soul is here,
you just have so many targets for its effect.
You can basically find yourself banishing cards like every turn with Eternal Soul.
Yeah. And you just think about it. You're taking a card off your opponent's board pretty much permanently every single turn.
And also this card, like you were saying, got better with Eternal Soul's release and Dark Magic Inheritance. Like, now that Dark Magician has more spells and traps, the likelihood of seeing what you need with this...
Getting that little plus...
is really good. You always want to have this on your field. Like,
speaking of which, always, you want to run 3. I don't...
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you should run less than 3 of this.
It's expensive, but...
Yeah, it's a little pricey, but it's worth it.
You need 3.
Yeah, you want to run this deck.
Alright. New card, Double Inheritance.
Yeah, this is a good card.
So Inheritance works is it's a quick play spell. You banish 2 spells out your grave, and then you can search any spell or trap that has Dark Magician in its text to your hand.
So basically the same things that Rod or this would be adding to your hand, you can get with that. And quick play means that you can chain it to things. That's not usually important, but there are situations because you could use this in your opponent's turn.
Which, as you've heard about things that even happen in opponent's turn.
Yeah, like use it to summon
him, Rod, where'd he go?
Yeah, like trigger Rod's effect. So really useful. And the cool part about this deck is we have enough spells to where they're always like in the grave.
Oh yeah, and you're gonna see some spells, man.
Yeah, we're gonna draw spells here in a bit, but
next up is Double Illusion Magic. I've seen people run this card a lot of different ratios, and you're not wrong whatever ratio you pick, but I find this card to be so good, I needed that too.
So what this does is you tribute a spellcaster monster, right? And then you can add 2 Dark Magicians from your deck and or graveyard to your hand.
Oh, man.
So you can get like 1 from your deck, 1 from your grave. This helps because you want to have Dark Magicians in your hand most of the time.
You gotta have them.
So you can like tribute off Rod to set it up. You can use this to dodge cards like Effect Veiler. If someone tries to use Veiler on your Rod or your Dark Illusion Magician, you can tribute it off and
it's a quick
dodge
play,
that.
Guys.
And being quick play means that you can trigger off the same effects that Inheritance can. This can also trigger.
It's just
very useful.
I wouldn't even call it too good sometimes.
Now here's where the interesting.
This is like
a little different.
The new
most meta versions of this run Desires.
The new power of the deck is Card of Demise, at least for this strategy.
I love that actually.
All right, just a quick rundown. Card of Demise. You draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. You cannot special summon, and your opponent takes no damage during this turn.
Yeah.
On the end phase, you have to dump your hand to the grave.
So for this card in particular, what's really great is that this Dark Magician deck relies a lot on traps.
Yes.
And specifically Eternal Soul. So it's okay if you draw like Eternal Soul and some Dark Magicians and things. If you discard the Dark Magicians at the end of your turn, it's fine. Because Eternal Soul will be getting them back. And this really speeds you up. Like, this can be like, a +2 and...
You run lots of spells, lots of traps. You can easily get yourself in a situation where you can just draw those 3 cards basically for free. And you run such a low monster count that you're not going to have too many situations where your hand's going to be clogged up.
Yeah. It's a strong draw card. We got more draw cards.
Oh, we're going to have more draw cards.
Yeah.
Triple Allure.
You still haven't got a 3rd Ultra?
Hey man, it's a super. Let me live, okay?
Yeah, this is... Yeah, just banish whatever,
It's Triple Allure, lots of draw power. Speaking of draw power.
Yeah, this at least is usable though, right? Because you don't really special summon much in your turn.
Yeah, on your turn, you really don't special summon. You can with Eternal Soul if you so choose. I usually don't, so Pod Duality, plus like Card Demise, plus Aura Darkness, all on your same turn, which can
And there are turns where you resolve all
You're
three.
just you're just going through cards, man.
Yeah, trust me, I know
and
all about
it easily sets up your inheritance. So it's cool to have all these draw cards. Our one-ofs.
Yeah, Foolish and Raigeki. This just, what do you usually pitch with this?
Like, okay, it depends on where I am. A lot of times it's Rod, because
set up that play.
you need that. That play is so good to start pulling off.
And other times you, I guess, just send a Dark Magician. Eternal Soul's live then.
And then
this is just good.
Raigeki is just Raigeki.
Yeah. Sometimes Dark Magician's got to get around this.
Alright, new trap. Eternal Soul.
Yeah, this is great.
This changed the game.
So, it's got 2 effects. Well, like 3 technically. 4 even. Your magicians aren't like affected by stuff. Your dark magician cards, which is more or less all you're running.
Yeah.
And also, once per turn, you can summon a dark magician monster from your hand or grave. Or you can search Thousand Knives or Dark Magic Attack from your deck to your hand.
People have been getting a lot of good use out of searching Dark Magic Attack.
So we don't run Dark Magic Attack in this build because of the theme duel. Like it kind of was like, I just don't want it to be like a dead card against Blue Eyes. But if you're running a normal Dark Magician deck,
run it.
I would, definitely say run like probably 2 copies. It's a free like Harpy's Feather Duster.
I love the idea that since I don't special summon on my own turn, I could usually just end up using it to get that card. Yeah. I still get some use out of it. I can
like if you use duality or something. Then
get rid of my opponent's back row so I can push for game.
This deck now, you want these 2 cards to be on the field together as early and as often as possible, because this just means every turn you are getting to banish things and banish things and
just
banish
taking
things.
Away every turn you're just negging your opponent by 1, making it that much harder for them to make a comeback, to do something.
Yeah, so triple Eternal Soul, you don't even want to try to run it at 2. Try to get 3. It's worth it.
And then another extremely powerful card for this deck, Navigation at 3.
So funny story, I think, with this. This has sort of taken a backseat to this in terms of the way to summon Dark Magician.
But it still is just as important in that it's grave effect. Yeah. Oh, I'm my bad, guys. When Eternal Soul leaves the field for any reason while it's face up, it wipes your board over monsters.
And that ties in a little bit to this because when it's in the grave and you control a Dark Magician, you can banish it from your graveyard to negate a spell or trap's effect until the end of turn. So, you could use it on anything like Raigeki or MST if they're trying to destroy your Eternal Soul, or just any spell and trap they need to advance their strategy.
Heck, I used it on a trade-in before.
And the good news is, with this, even if you don't get to use its effect to summon Dark Magician, because they're running cards like Curry Bandit, cards like Card of Demise, it'll find its way in the grave either way.
You just start negging things, man.
And it can't be used, that graveyard effect can't be used the turn it gets sent to the grave, so that's fine if you send it with like Curry Bandit and you're just ready for your opponent's
or Card of
turn.
Demise and face ends.
Very useful.
Alright, and then the last bit
is just the Solemn Brigade.
The Solemn Brigade. They're just solid cards.
This deck needs to have some kind of protection against stuff, so.
It has not harmed us in any way, shape, or form.
Alright.
The extra deck is not...
You won't go into it much in this deck, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'll go into,
like the first guy we're going to show you is really the
He's like the only one you make, more or less.
So the idea behind him is 2 level 7s. He can special summon a Dark Magician from your
hand or deck, right?
Hand or deck. Then when a normal monster or the normal spellcaster declares attack, he can then banish a card.
So in addition to triggering off like a Dark Magical Circle, he'll also get to banish an additional card when your like Dark Magician attacks something. So it's really useful. I think this card would have been a little bit better if it had been like, this name is treated as Dark Magician or something.
And, give it a little extra oomph. But hey, if your opponent gives you a weak board, you can just go ahead and make him take 2 cards off their board, and that's a wrap.
We ignore this next card. It's not that great, he's the guy on the mat, so...
He's like the disappointment of the deck, in my opinion, man.
Anyway, so you run Gaia Dragon to Pierce.
Why not?
Draco Sack can make tokens.
Why not?
All these cards,
the reason for the rest of these is why not?
Yeah, this locks up the field. This is actually pretty useful because it is a like dark spellcaster and stuff, so that can have some synergy. Yeah. And taking cards of all these effects is probably the most useful one. Like when you need to out a board. I don't even know what this card does. It's just in here because it's rank 7. I barely know what this does either.
Why not?
This is because you run rods, so you can make some of these rank 3s.
Why not?
You won't do too many of them too often, but there are a few situations where, like, you know, you might need to pop something.
Let me help you guys out. So you saw how all that was why not. So you really don't need those cards. What could you do, I wonder? If you're siding in winter cherries against a certain couple of decks.
Side in like winter cherries, use the spots for that. We also took out from last time Eye of Timaeus. It's a good card you could consider in here too. Now that you have more Dark Magicians coming out.
The deck does so much. I don't need to pray to go into Eye of Timaeus to beat Blue Eyes anymore.
Yeah, but Eye of Timaeus and like Dark Magic Attack are two cards that, if you're a really big Dark Magician fan, those would be fun to consider too. Yeah, that's the deck. Remember, if you haven't seen the theme duel, check it out. There will be a link. Yeah, all in all though, this deck is a lot of fun. I'd say this, kind of summing up our experiences with it. I mean, over these last few months, what would you say? How have your opinions on this deck changed?
Okay, I used to be extremely frustrated with this deck.
Yeah, I know.
The deck, because at the end of the day, the deck really just does the one thing, which is circle, banish. And
it was so hard to summon them back then.
It was hard to keep summoning him. It was hard to make a whole deck around that strategy until
now the new stuff actually makes it really consistent.
Inheritance was able to keep up our consistency. Eternal Soul, just protecting our Dark Magicians, allowing us to get that effect off more often.
It makes everything else work so much better together. The card demise.
Speak on the card demise strategy. The overall strategy of that card is so beautiful for this deck because the ratios you run already work in this card's favor. You only run 11 monsters in this build?
Yeah, like most Dark Magician builds aren't going to be running more than like 11 or 12 monsters.
Yeah, you don't run a lot, so you can get this, and then max utility for this card, man. When you open it with like
all your draw cards is great. Yeah,
it won't hinder you.
And all in all,
I'd say when you resolve him on that same time, man.
I would say that all in all, like these cards, this might be like better than Pot of Desires for this deck. Maybe competitively, Pot of Desires will get you to your goals faster, but I mean, this has an argument for being quite good too, so it's definitely worth it. But yeah, so that's the deck. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to check the theme duel out. We'll also be doing it against Red Eyes soon.
Yes.
You know, coming up soon.
Could they even see that?
Maybe. They probably don't know what it is. But yeah, so that's the vid. Hope you liked it. Share your Dark Magician thoughts, different things, and make this deck. There's a lot of cards you can tech and play in here.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with the deck.
All right. Hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you in the next one.